She was a poor woman with only a corn tray and twin daughters the world never believed in. The man who got her pregnant vanished when she needed him most. Years later, those twin daughters walked into a courtroom, wearing lawyer robes. And the man in handcuffs? He was their father. What they did next left everyone speechless. In a dusty corner of Lagos, where the cries of hawkers mix with the horns of impatient buses, a young woman named Ronke stood under the hot sun with trembling hands. She was just 22, fresh out of secondary school, with dreams of becoming a nurse. But those dreams had died the day Sunday Aini vanished. He was the bus driver with a crooked smile who told her she was the most beautiful girl in the world. She believed him. He said he would marry her. She believed that too. But when her belly started to swell, his promises vanished like smoke. One morning, he didn't come back. Ronke returned to her parents' house in tears, thinking they would understand. They didn't. Her mother slapped her so hard her ears rang. Her father locked the door and told her, "You want to be a woman? Go and be a woman." That night, with nowhere to sleep and nothing but the clothes on her back, Ronke lay behind a locked shop in Balogun Market and cried until her throat burned. By morning, she had decided to survive. Not just for herself, but for the two lives growing inside her. 9 months later, in the corner of a crowded government hospital, she gave birth to twin girls with no one by her side. She named them Kemi and Tola. Life didn't give her time to rest. She wrapped her babies in second-hand wrappers and carried them on her back, cleaning toilets, washing clothes, and begging God for strength. Every time she looked into their eyes, she whispered, "I may be poor, but you will never be worthless." She didn't know that those little girls, the ones born in shame and raised in struggle, would one day walk into a courtroom wearing lawyer robes and come face to face with the man who broke her heart. But for now, she cleaned floors and cried in silence. When the twins turned 5, Ronke's world collapsed again. The old woman who let them stay in her one-room apartment passed away in her sleep. With no one to defend her, Ronke and her girls were thrown out into the street by the woman's greedy nephew, who wanted to rent the room to a paying tenant. They slept under a wooden kiosk that night. Mosquitoes bit through their wrappers. Rain soaked their mat. Tola coughed all through the night, and Ronke held her close, whispering prayers into the darkness. She went from house to house the next morning, begging for cleaning jobs. Some slammed the gate in her face. Others mocked her smell. One woman even sprayed her with disinfectant as if she were filthy. But then she met Madame Yuzo. Madame Yuzo lived in a mansion with marble floors and gold curtains. She wore silk robes and diamond earrings that glittered even in the shadows. She looked at Ronke like she was something scraped off her shoe, but she gave her a job. Ronke scrubbed every corner of that house. Sometimes she skipped meals to make sure her girls ate. She would hide leftover bread in her wrapper. She used curtain cloth from the dustbin to sew dresses for her daughters. Then, one day, she gathered the courage to ask Madame Yuzo for an advance. Tola was sick again, and the medicine cost more than she could afford. Madame Yuzo sipped her wine slowly, looked at Ronke dead in the eye, and said, "You look too comfortable for someone who claims to be suffering. Pack your things. You're fired." Just like that. Ronke didn't beg. She didn't cry. She walked out, holding her daughter's hands, her pride burning like fire in her chest. At that moment, at rock bottom, her story began to change. Ronke returned to the streets with nothing but a nylon bag, 2 wrappers, and her daughters. She found shelter under a pedestrian bridge, where the nights smelled of urine and fear. She borrowed a metal tray from a neighbor and used her last savings to buy corn. That morning, she began roasting and selling corn by the roadside. Kemi and Tola, now 7, sat beside her daily, reading torn textbooks they picked from dumps. They taught each other how to spell, read street signs, and dream. One hot afternoon, as Ronke fanned her fire, she heard a scream. A little girl had run into the road, chasing her balloon. A Kiki Napep was speeding towards her. Without thinking, Kemi and Tola dashed into the road. Kemi grabbed the girl by the arm and pulled her to the side just in time. The Kiki swerved and hit a pole. People screamed. A crowd gathered. The little girl was crying but safe. Moments later, a black Prado Jeep arrived. A man in a dark suit jumped out, eyes wide with fear. He knelt beside the girl and hugged her. "Ngozi, are you okay? What happened?" She pointed at the twins. "They saved me, Daddy." The man stood up. His name was Justice Ademola, a high court judge. He looked at Kemi and Tola with disbelief. Then he saw Ronke in the background, her hands trembling, her corn forgotten. He walked up to her slowly and asked, "Are they your daughters?" Ronke nodded, heart pounding. Justice Ademola looked down at the girls and said, "God used you to save my daughter today. From now on, I will make sure your lives never stay the same." Ronke fell to her knees in shock, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know it yet, but that day marked the beginning of a new season. Justice Ademola did not make empty promises. The following week, Kemi and Tola were enrolled in one of the best private schools in Lagos. Brand new uniforms, new school bags, desks with their names on them. It was like a dream wrapped in reality. Ronke was given a job as a housekeeper in the judge's mansion, a job with dignity, decent pay, and a private room for her and her daughters. She no longer had to scrub floors on her knees. She was treated like family. Years passed, and the twins grew into young women. They studied harder than anyone else. They made the honor roll every term. Teachers whispered that they had the sharpest minds the school had ever seen. Ronke watched them with pride, her heart swelling every time they came home with a certificate or an award. She never forgot the nights under the bridge. She never forgot Madame Yuzo or the corn tray. But she also never forgot the judge who changed their lives. Both girls got scholarships to study law at the University of Ibadan when it came time for university. Ronke, now in her 40s, stood outside the campus gate as they entered their first day. She wiped tears with her wrapper. "Go and make this name proud," she whispered. The girls looked back and smiled. "We carry your blood, Mama. We won't fail you." None of them knew that a familiar name would reappear in their lives in just a few years. A man they had never met, but whose blood ran in their veins. Sunday Aini. The man who had left their mother in shame was about to walk into their courtroom in chains. It was a rainy Monday morning in Lagos. The courthouse hallways echoed with footsteps, whispers, and handcuffs clinking. Kemi and Tola had just passed the bar and volunteered with a legal aid team, helping defend the poor and wrongly accused. On that day, they were assigned a new case. When the file dropped on the table, the name on it made their hearts stop. Defendant, Sunday Aini. Charged with theft and assault. Picked up Nero Jalegba. No one had come to bail him. No relatives listed. A street man, the file said. Homeless. Broken. Forgotten. They stared at the mugshot. Tola whispered, "Do you think it's him?" Kemi nodded slowly. "It has to be." They took the case without telling anyone. Not even Mama Ronke. She had never spoken much about him. He just left before they were born and never looked back. But now, fate had placed his life in their hands. When Sunday Aini was brought into court, he walked with a limp. His beard was overgrown. His shirt was torn. His eyes, once proud and playful, were now dull and defeated. He didn't recognize the young women sitting at the defense table. But they recognized him. Every wrinkle, every broken piece of him, they saw it all. And still they stood up and said, "Your Honor, we represent the defendant." He looked at them with confusion. Then something shifted in his eyes. A flicker of something. Regret. Shame. Maybe recognition. For the first time in his life, Sunday Aini was about to learn that the daughters he abandoned were now the only ones fighting to save him. The courtroom was silent. Even the ceiling fan above seemed to hold its breath. Sunday Aini stood in the dock, chained at the wrists as the judge read the charges. "Mr. Aini, you are accused of burglary, assault, and resisting arrest. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Sunday cleared his throat, but no words came. He stared at the two young women standing before him, dressed in black and white robes. Something about their eyes shook him to the core. Kemi stepped forward. "Your Honor, we request a brief recess to speak with our client privately." Permission was granted. In the small consultation room, Sunday sat down shakily. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, eyes darting between them. "You don't even know me." Tola leaned forward. "Actually, we do." Kemi placed an old photo on the table. It was faded and wrinkled but clear enough. A young man with a crooked smile sitting on a bus. Ronke had kept it all these years. Sunday's hands trembled as he picked it up. His lips parted. "Ronke? We are Kemi and Tola," Kemi said softly. "Your daughters." His face crumbled. He tried to speak but broke down in sobs. "I didn't know. I didn't know she kept them. I thought she would. I was scared. I was young. I was stupid." Tola's face was stone. "You left her behind like trash. She raised us alone. She suffered. She bled. And you, where were you?" Sunday wept into his hands. "I deserve nothing. I know. I didn't expect this." There was a long silence. Then Kemi said, "We didn't come here for your apology. We came here because we believe everyone deserves a second chance. Even you." Sunday looked up slowly. His strong, fierce, and righteous daughters were his reflection and redemption. They walked back into court. The trial began. And for the first time, Sunday Aini didn't feel like a criminal. He felt seen. By the very girls he abandoned. And though the world had turned its back on him, they chose not to. They chose justice. They chose mercy. They carried their mother's spirit, not in anger but grace. The trial stretched over weeks. Witnesses came and went. The prosecution painted Sunday Aini as nothing more than a career criminal. This man had squandered his life and deserved no pity. But Kemi and Tola came prepared. They brought receipts from the soup kitchen where he volunteered. They tracked down a witness who testified that Sunday had tried to stop the robbery that night, not commit it. They showed how the evidence was circumstantial, twisted by the officer who made the arrest. The judge listened. The court listened. And through it all, Sunday sat in silence, stunned by the fierce defense mounted by the daughters he had never held, fed, or raised. Outside the courthouse, people started to talk. Newspapers picked up the story. Twin lawyers defend absent father in landmark case. Some praised the girls' compassion. Others criticized them for helping a man who abandoned them. But the twins didn't care. They weren't doing it for attention. They were doing it for their mother. Ronke had always told them, "Don't let pain make you cruel. Let it make you kind." One morning, before the final hearing, Sunday asked to see them privately. He sat with a worn-out Bible in his hand. His eyes were tired but honest. "I want you both to know, even if I walk free, I'm not free until you forgive me." Tola hesitated. Her voice cracked. "We may never forget what you did, but we won't let it poison us." Kemi added, "We forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because we need to be free." Sunday bowed his head. He cried, but not the same kind of tears as before. These were heavy but healing. On the final day, the judge cleared his throat and looked around the courtroom. In light of the new evidence and the extraordinary character shown by the defense team, this court finds the defendant, Sunday Aini, not guilty. Gasps filled the room. Sunday collapsed into a seat, his hands shaking. Kemi and Tola stood beside him. No cheers. No applause. Just three people standing together, connected by blood, broken by the past, and now, starting to heal. In the eyes of the law, Sunday was a free man. But in the eyes of his daughters, he had only just begun the journey to becoming a father. After the judge declared him a free man, Sunday Aini didn't know where to go. He stood outside the courthouse like a man who had just stepped out of a storm, soaked in guilt and silence. Kemi and Tola didn't say much. They hailed a taxi and told him to get in. He obeyed quietly. They drove him to the part of Lagos where forgotten people lived. The same place he had called home for the past few years. A single room in a crumbling building. No electricity. A torn mattress on the floor. An old Bible on the windowsill. Dust covered everything. Tola opened the curtain and let the sunlight in. Kemi handed him a towel. "Go and freshen up. We'll be back." They left and returned an hour later with hot food, clean clothes, and bottled water. The three sat cross-legged on the floor. sharing the meal like a strange family reunion with no laughter. After a while, Sunday cleared his throat. "Your mother, Ronke, does she know what you did for me?" The room went quiet. Kemi shook her head. "No, we kept it from her." Tola added, "We didn't want to break her heart if things went wrong. But now that you're free, we'll tell her." Sunday looked down. "Will she even agree to see me?" Tola smiled softly. "We'll bring you when the time is right." Back home, the twins sat with Mama Ronke as she peeled beans on the front porch that evening. The sky was orange with sunset. "Mama," Tola said playfully, "what would you do if one day our father came knocking, asking for forgiveness?" Ronke paused. She didn't turn around. She kept peeling. But her voice came out soft, almost like a prayer. "Your father hurt me," she said. "He abandoned me when I needed him most. But to err is human, and forgiveness is divine." She finally turned to them. Her eyes glistened. "If he comes, I'll forgive him because he's still your father. And nothing can change that." One quiet Sunday evening, the girls brought Sunday Aini to the compound. Ronke stood in the doorway. The years had changed them both, but there was still something familiar in their eyes. Sunday dropped to his knees. "Ronke," he whispered, "I came to say sorry. For everything." Tears rolled down Ronke's cheeks. She didn't speak. She walked forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. Not as a wife, but as a woman who had healed. And in that moment, without a word, peace entered their home like sunlight breaking through rain clouds. The past didn't disappear, but forgiveness made the future possible, to be continued in the hearts of those who believe in second chances.